to 1,000%, and we could do the same for you. We are licensed by the Department of Insurance and work in Illinois, Northwest Indiana, and Southern Wisconsin. Crosscom Public Adjusters, 630-871-5500. Online at crosscominc.com. That's crosscominc.com. Crosscom, building trust for over 20 years.
Portions of the following show may be pre-recorded.
AM 560, The Answer. If we want to preserve our constitutional republic, we need an informed and educated citizenry. And that's what this show is all about. Find out what's really happening. It's time to stop the lies and learn the truth. This is The Real Story with your host, Jeannie Ives.
Welcome. Thank you for joining me on this Sunday night. We are broadcasting live from Elk Grove Village. Thank you to George and Paul, my producers. I want to get that out of the way right away. The phone number here, 312-642-5600. Well, here you go again. Another very eventful week in the Trump administration. Administration number 2, by the way. He is taking no prisoners, so to speak. And I got to tell you, the Democrats came loaded for bear at the State of the Union address. They were not going to play around with anything. They were thrilled with their little antics. They thought that they were going to make some hay doing that, and actually it all backfired on them. They became, they were cringy. They became their base started to laugh at them, honestly. Now there are a few people that are riled up about it, but honestly, they looked ridiculous there with their little signs, saying, that's false. Okay, admittedly, we did have Republicans yell at to Obama, you lied, like Joe Wilson did in South Carolina. And then you had Marjorie Taylor Greene say something similar to that to Biden, saying liar, calling him a liar. Yeah, okay, great. But, I mean, these guys just went on and on and on. And it was very depressing, honestly, to watch them sit on their hands while young Americans that have gone through multiple trials simply, not get any applause from them. Nobody stood for them. It was absolutely embarrassing for the party. And then, of course, what did you have after that? You had that cringy video that went out with those women, and of course Lauren Underwood participated in it, and they were like, choose your fighter, and they, got in their stance, and they're like looking all tough and stuff. I mean, how ridiculous can they be? They are cartoon characters. They have no idea what to do, but they're trying to raise a lot of hay right now. They're trying to put up a resistance, so to speak. And so that's why you had a bunch of people go downtown Chicago and Dick Durbin lead the parade and lead the rally and get up there and say, oh, we can't stand for this. And it's one threat after another. They're going to cut Medicaid. They cut my job. The person works for USAID or whatever. So I mean, this is their form of resistance, is belly aching and complaining, rather than really appreciating the fact that finally somebody's going to get a hold of the bureaucracy that is literally strangling Americans. $37 trillion in debt. Does anybody think that's good for national security, the economy, your children's future? Oh, a lot of these leftists, they don't want to have children anyway, so it doesn't matter to them, I guess. That's what we're dealing with. We're really dealing with people that have lost their minds, that have no concept of reality, that have maybe sat in cushy jobs for a long time, or they're retired. And they've, who knows, maybe they have that fat government pension that you do get in this city of Illinois. Speaking of pensions, before I forget, we are having our pension town hall. We've moved it online. We're going to be streaming it live on Thursday, March 13th at 7 p.m. It'll still be Ted Dabrowski of Wire Points, Keith Pekow from Orland Park, he's the Orland Park mayor, and myself. And we'll be doing a deep dive in pensions because this is going to got the stranglehold on Illinois' budget, both at the local level and the state level. But yeah, no, you've got a lot of people that are wandering around, very upset, when the truth is they're not cutting Medicaid for the people who really depend on it. I mean, we covered this story ad nauseum. I really don't want to necessarily go so much back into that. Instead, I really do want to talk about what's going down at the state level, and a couple things with Pritzker. First of all, one thing that he has been doing, and he put out this press release March 3rd. Site Selection magazine names Illinois and Chicago as top U.S. destinations for corporate expansion and relocation. Now, great headline. Sounds wonderful. terrific. Site Selection Magazine really likes Illinois. And I actually did a little bit more of a deeper dive on this. I read about the Site Selection Magazine. I read who was at the top, by the way. Of course, it's Texas. And I read about what the criteria was. It's basically if you had $1 million of investment and 20 employees that were new, then you could be considered one of the companies that came into the state. So Illinois had something like 664. I think Texas had over 1,000. But anyway, we ended up second. But when the devil's always in the details. So the Pritzker's press release, the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity and Intersect Illinois announced Site Selection Magazine, the leading publication in corporate real estate and facility planning, has ranked Illinois number 2 for corporate expansion and relocation for the 3rd year in a row. Yep. And Chicago was named number 1 metro for the 12th consecutive year. Okay, then it goes on, and they talk about, this is what they say. This is Site Selection saying this. The state has grown its reputation as a premier global destination to do business, said J.B. Pritzker. With unmatched infrastructure and incentives, a talented and qualified workforce, and a diverse array of industry leaders, it's no surprise that Illinois has achieved this impressive recognition from Site Selection Magazine for the 3rd year in a row. Well, what's important here? Incentives. Because when you look at the list of people that came here, they got massive incentives. And of course, number 1 is that huge quantum computing center. They're going to bring about $1 billion in. But guess what Governor Pritzker problem? He promised them $500 million in incentives. And then if you look at the other ones, if you look at Wheeland Rolled Products, they're getting a tax incentive. They're on the DCEO list to get it. Bedrock Materials, they're on the DCEO list getting incentives. Weimar Technology, this is all listed in his press release. They're getting some incentives too from the state of Illinois. Seismic America, they're getting incentives as well. The only one I couldn't find on the DCEO list, and I probably haven't looked in far enough because they probably are getting incentives too, is Aliflex Pack AG. They're the only ones I couldn't find. Anyway, we need to debunk some of this stuff because at the same time that he's saying we're great for business, I'm telling you right now, if that were the case, then we would not have as much problems with our budget and funding everything else. We're going to take a quick break because I have Kristina Rasmussen coming on. She's the executive director of Do No Harm, and we're going to talk about what's going on in the DEI atmosphere when it comes to college campuses. You're going to want to listen to this podcast. We'll be right back.
Make sure that you never miss a day of Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson when you subscribe to the Chicago's Morning Answer podcast, presented by Signature Bank. Listen to the entire show each day on demand with limited commercial breaks. You can subscribe today for free at 560theanswer.com and click on podcasts or search for Chicago's Morning Answer on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
The American military brings together brave men and women from across the country who have chosen to answer the call when their country needs them most. At aviatorfuel.com, we know the military because we live the military life. With books written by a Navy pilot and run by a hardworking military spouse, aviatorfuel.com is proud of our service and our country. That's why we never compromise on authenticity. Our cocktail books are modeled off the real Army, Navy, and Marine pilot checklists that military aviators have used for decades. But instead of a procedure on how to handle an engine fire, you'll find the procedure for how to make a mojito. From classic recipes to military specials like the Queen of Battle or the Afterburner, our cocktail books have something special for every veteran. So go to aviatorfuel.com and get ready to raise a glass to the brave men and women who serve our country. That's aviatorfuel.com.
You heard me talk about Relief Factor and how so many people enjoy a better, more pain-free life because of it. If you're dealing with everyday pain, it makes sense you'd want to try it first. Well, Relief Factor makes that pretty pain-free too with their 3-week quick start kit for only $19.95. An easy, affordable way to see how it could literally change your life, like it has mine. Relief Factor is a daily supplement that fights pain naturally. Developed by doctors, Relief Factor doesn't just mask pain temporarily, it helps reduce or eliminate pain. In fact, the longer you take it, the more effective effective it is. Trying it couldn't be easier with their 3-week quick start for only $19.95, less than $1 a day. And it just takes a phone call to 1-800-4RELIEF. That's 1-800-4RELIEF. 1-800-4RELIEF. Wherever you're having pain, every day you feel better is a day you live better. Try Relief Factor's 3-week quick start. Visit ReliefFactor.com. That's ReliefFactor.com, or call 1-800-4RELIEF. 800-4RELIEF for Relief Factor.
You can hear this today at PregerTopia.com.
It is time to take your calls on whatever is on your mind.
You talked a while back about the Jewish law that says that as a Jew, you are not supposed to drink wine that's poured by a non-Jew. Did I get it correct?
Correct. That's an Orthodox law. Correct.
Okay. So is that something that's in the Bible?
Hear the entire episode. It's for Pregertopia members only. Go to PregerTopia.com.
Salem News Channel is America's fastest growing conservative TV network.
It's an absolute crazy day.
Home to the largest lineup of free speech champions anywhere. Delivering in-depth insight and unapologetic opinion on today's biggest news stories.
Americans aren't going to put up with this anymore.
SNC brings you the news that matters, told with integrity and clarity. Watch Salem News Channel free 24/7 on your television. Stream now on Pluto TV.
We now return to The Real Story. Here's your host, Jeannie Ives.
All right, welcome back. This is The Real Story with Jeannie Ives. So, as we know, Donald Trump has decided that DEI needs to die. Well, this is what he had to say at the State of the Union.
We've ended the tyranny of so-called diversity, equity, and inclusion policies all across the entire federal government and indeed the private sector and our military. And our country will be woke no longer. We believe that whether you are a doctor, an accountant, a lawyer, or an air traffic controller, you should be hired and promoted based on skill and competence, not race or gender. Very important. You should be hired based on merit. And the Supreme Court, in a brave and very powerful decision, has allowed us to do so. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. We have removed the poison of critical race theory from our public schools, and I signed an order making it the official policy of the United States government that there are only 2 genders, male and female.
Yeah, that was a big statement. It's about time somebody spoke truth to things like that. Well, somebody else speaking truth to that is Kristina Rasmussen. She serves as the executive director of Do No Harm. She's an expert in nonprofit management and government affairs and specializes in helping organizations achieve concrete goals to affect real, lasting change. In 2022, Rasmussen helped launch Do No Harm to help stop identity politics from ruining medical education and clinical practice. Do No Harm was awarded the Peterson Prize for Venture Philanthropy less than 6 months after the group went live, thanks in large part to Rasmussen's boundless energy and passion for bringing people together. I've known Kristina for quite a while. We worked together on some Illinois stuff, so we've really cared about policy for a long time. And Kristina, thank you so much for coming on the program to talk about your latest venture.
Jeannie, it is so good to talk with you again.
Yeah, so this was expected. Everybody knew that DEI was going to die, especially under Trump, and you guys are accelerating that. One of the things that I noticed is that you just filed a lawsuit against the American Chemical Society for operating a discriminatory scholarship. I find that very good because Illinois has discriminatory scholarships that they are being sued about as well.
Yeah, there's this real disturbing trend right now in higher education and certainly within medical education that we should treat students differently on the basis of their race. And when it comes to things like admissions or scholarships, often white students and Asian students are asked not to apply. And indeed, that was the case with the American Chemical Society, where they sponsored a very prestigious scholarship program for high school students who want to go into chemical careers, but you weren't allowed to apply if you were a white or an Asian student. And we had a member with amazing test scores, off the charts GPA, who happened to be half white, half Asian. And when she went to apply for it, they told her, no go, you cannot proceed. You're not welcome here. And that's a violation of many laws, civil rights laws, and so forth. And so we're really proud to represent her and hopefully bring some justice to the situation so she can be treated equally and fairly. It's a pretty simple request.
Well, this has been going on for quite a while in medical schools. And a couple years ago, a friend of mine whose son had gotten into medical school, and I'm going to keep the name out of it, sat down. She went to the white coat ceremony. And by the way, you can view all these white coat ceremonies online for the most part, so you can do your own analysis if you want to. But in that case, there were literally, out of a class of about 130 students, there were only 16 white males. 16 white males. And there were over 100 that were females. And so when my son entered medical school just this summer, I did the same thing. I did count at the white coat ceremony. About 240 kids, 150 of them were female, half of them were minority female, and the rest was evenly divided minority male and white male. It just doesn't seem, that that's the way it should be. But maybe I'm wrong.
So every year, there are about 44,000 applicants for positions in medical school. About 22,000 students get in. That's how many positions there are. So it's really a zero-sum game. If one person gets in, the next person doesn't. I think that students of all races and all genders can be amazing doctors. Really, the only thing I care about is your skill level. Tell me about your aptitude, your hard work, your talent, your drive. Because when I lay down on the surgery room table, or I send a kiddo in to see the doctor, all I really care about is that I'm going to see the best person who can help me or my family get better. And unfortunately, we've seen this trend in medical schools where merit hasn't been the number one driver. You've seen a lot of social justice efforts that are more focused on political activism and discriminatory ideologies. And that's really not what medical school is about. We had one Ivy League student write into us saying, it's my first year. We've had a lot of classes on pronoun usage, but not so much on kidneys. I'm here to learn about the kidneys. Teach me that. And his frustration is felt by a lot of students, a lot of doctors, and that's why it's so exciting at Do No Harm to be able to do something about this in a rational way that has a lot of common sense tied to it.
So, I couldn't agree with you more. I'm happy to be treated by any qualified doctor. Honestly, it does not matter to me, but you do know that the numbers seem a little bit dicey here. Another thing, though, that you have been looking into is you've been basically finding out whether or not these universities are actually teaching the DEI stuff, like you said. Maybe they're more focused on that than some of the other things that they should be focused on. And I think for the most part, medical schools are probably focused on the right stuff. I really do believe that. But at the same time, they are doing some level of indoctrination. And so you've put out a list on your website. Isn't that correct?
That's right. So a couple of weeks ago, the United States Department of Education, their Office for Civil Rights, sent a letter to basically every educational school in America, K through 12, all the way through medical school, law school, saying, our laws are very clear in America. We do not discriminate on the basis of race. DEI departments often host either covert or overt racial discrimination. We will be pursuing this robustly. We encourage you to clean up your act and your practices, because we'll be in touch soon. So at Do No Harm, we went through all of the medical schools out there and came up with a list of the schools that still have very loud and proud DEI offices on their website and what they call for with those offices. I'm just looking at the list of 70 or so medical schools with DEI offices that they haven't yet shuttered, and I'm seeing at least 6 Illinois schools. But it's not just Illinois. Nearby Wisconsin, Medical College of Wisconsin, they've still got one up. Mm-hmm. So I do think there's an adjustment. You're seeing it in the private sector. You're seeing it in federal agencies where folks are saying, enough, we're taking it down. We're going to return to our core functions and focus on what really matters. Unfortunately, there are some pretty strong ideologues running medical colleges, so they may be the most resistant, but I would argue it's actually the most important that we get these rights because we're talking about our health and our family's health in the future.
Oh, I think we absolutely have to get it right. Another thing that, and probably one of the first things that I knew about your institution, Do No Harm, is that you started a Stop the Harm database, and this is about basically revealing which hospitals transition kids. And so could you talk a little bit about that?
I'd be happy to. So, a lot of people understand that pediatric gender really has exploded in the last decade. And a lot of us know, a family member or a friend whose child is feeling confusion. It's a hard time, puberty. And we're seeing an increasingly large number of children entering the medicalization process with puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones and even surgeries. But no one really knew how many kids are we actually talking about? How much money is being made off of these procedures? So we created a database that was built upon anonymized insurance claims. And so we could see exactly which institutions and which states were, prescribing drugs or doing those radical mastectomies and even bottom surgery and how much money was being earned off of it. So we encourage people to go to stoptheharmdatabase.com, to see if your hospital is involved in this. A lot of hospitals are turning this off right now because Trump has also indicated that all the other federal dollars they rely on for other services could be shut off if they continue to do this to kids. So it's just a great tool to kind of figure out what's happening in your backyard.
Yeah, it is. And of course, for Illinois, Lurie Children's Hospital is the top slot, according to your database. 145 sex change patients. Submitted charges are $274,228. So you guys go down to the dollar with here. You've got it pretty much. But there's actually quite a few. University of Illinois Hospital is doing it as well. So you do have quite a few people in Illinois engaged in this process. Hopefully it stops. Okay, well, I just want to thank you so much, Kristina, for coming on and telling us a little bit more about Do No Harm. And we appreciate that your efforts in ending DEI in higher education. Certainly a goal of mine.
Oh, thank you, Jeannie. Thank you for having me on.
You bet. All right. And we're going to go to a call quick before we go to break. We've got Eduardo in Tampa Bay. Eduardo, welcome to the program. You're on with Jeannie Ives.
Yeah, good evening. A couple of things here. $400 million was pulled by President Trump at Columbia for those anti-Israel protests. Some of those arrests were not even students of Columbia. And also a bigger story this week is President Biden's signature was done by AutoPen, except when he resigned that he was not running for president again. Check out that story. I
had not heard that, but I guess I'm not surprised. And, I don't know the rules around that. There's a lot of auto signatures that do go on in government, but I wouldn't imagine that really important legislation would be auto signed. You would expect that to be an actual signature. So, well, Eduardo, thanks a lot. I appreciate your call.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
You too. Okay. And before, I just want to talk about that a little bit more because if you didn't get my newsletter, you should sign up for it at breakthrough-ideas.com. And speaking of which, higher education scholarships, there is one that the Illinois has. It's called the Minority Teaching Scholarship. It's for only if you're a minority, you get the $7,500 scholarship, and it's renewable for all 4 years. And Barbara Hernandez wrote an op-ed in the Chicago Tribune arguing that, we've had the scholarship for 32 years. It's played a key role in growing and strengthening Illinois' educator workforce, and in turn helping more pre-K through 12 public school students realize their full potential. That's what she says in her op-ed. She argues that we need to keep it, and I'm telling you right now, if they've had that for 32 years, well, Illinois is not doing very well because, the large percentage of our teachers, I think upwards of 80% of our teachers are white teachers. And you know what? And Barbara Hernandez is out there trying to say that, for 32 years, this program is working. Obviously, it's not working, or maybe we'd have more minority teachers. But even that said, the statistics for this just don't hold water at all. For example, her own school districts, Aurora, Illinois, they have basically 81 and 85% minority teachers, and not minority teachers, white teachers, and the scores are terrible. So you're like, okay, well, maybe she's got a point there. That's not the case. You can go to East St. Louis School District 129, and at that school district, and I used SAT scores, by the way, here, there are over 70% of those teachers are minority teachers, and 5% of the kids read at grade level, and only 2% do math at grade level. I have a lot more to talk about this, a lot more data. I'm going to put all that information up on my website, and we'll be right back. We've got Tom Chavez here to talk about local elections, and specifically the local school board election in Elmhurst. This is The Real Story with Jeannie Ives.
Your home is a valuable asset, and you want to take care of your home. From roofs, siding, windows, and doors to furnaces, flooring, landscaping, and much more. Listen to your go-to for all things home. It's Home Answers Radio every Sunday morning at 9. Presented by Lang Home Medical Equipment, Valdecast Windows and Doors, and by JeffBuysYourHouse.com. Get answers from industry experts so you can make informed decisions about your home improvement. Right here on AM 560, The Answer.
News. I'm Kathleen Maloney. Former central banker Mark Carney will become Canada's next prime minister after the governing Liberal Party elected him its leader.
I will work day and night with one purpose, which is to build a stronger Canada for everyone.
Outgoing Justin Trudeau remains as prime minister until Carney is sworn in. He will have to deal with President Trump's trade war and annexation threat. A 4.1 earthquake hits Southern California today. The quake centered between Oxnard and Malibu, not far from the devastating Palisades wildfire.
If you're wondering what a 4.1 can do, that's enough to maybe give you a little bit of a jolt, maybe scare you a little bit, but there are no reports of damage at this point.
Fox meteorologist Adam Klotz. America is listening to Fox News.
If you have high blood pressure, listen to this story. Ira was given a grim diagnosis about his blood pressure. His doctor warned it's sky high. If he didn't get it down in 3 weeks, he was going to need surgery. So Ira began exercising, went on medication. But what seemed to be the miracle change, his diet. After thorough research and consulting with a nutritionist friend, Ira concocted a juice from foods that work like natural blood pressure medicines. 2 weeks later, his blood pressure dropped 30 points. What helped save Ira's life, amazed his doctor, is now available to you. Ira and his nutritionist founded 120 Life, a delicious juice and powdered mix with natural ingredients that have shown to lower blood pressure. Try it yourself risk-free with a 2-week trial pack. Go to 120life.com and use coupon code 560 to save 15% and get free shipping. They're so sure it can noticeably lower your blood pressure in 2 weeks, they'll give your money back if you're not satisfied. Order now, 120life.com. Use coupon code 560 at checkout.
You never want to miss one of life's most important moments. A graduation, a birthday, a first communion, a wedding. When these moments happen, you want to make sure to capture them so that you and your loved ones can remember them for years to come. For over 30 years, families have relied on Tom Kaloran Photography to capture important life moments. This locally owned family business can provide the solutions you need for your important event photography, from weddings and birthdays to class reunions and golf outings. No matter the size or scope, Tom Kaloran Photography will make sure you have lasting memories to share for years to come. Tom Kaloran Photography is also the official photographer for AM 560 The Answer. To learn more and to see their portfolio, just visit KaloranPhotography.com. That's KILLORAN photography.com. Or call them at 708-361-0025. Tom Kaloran Photography, capturing important life moments for over 30 years.
Jeff Tishlar, author of High Tech versus the Highest Tech, has shared his knowledge of the spectacular things that we see in nature, as opposed to what man has created, and how this should inform one's faith. Jeff served on the mission field all over the world and has created this highly illustrated and concisely written technical book. The easy-to-read format is understood from the youngest reader to the most intelligent and mature readers. Google and Amazon book reviews include, "This is the best little book I have ever read. It is amazing how much information is in this book." and a beautifully written and illustrated book. The author has a gift for describing complicated technical details in a very understandable style. This book is available now in paperback on Amazon. Search High Tech versus the Highest Tech by Jeff Tischler. 100% of proceeds go to missions. That's High Tech vs. the Highest Tech by Jeff Tischler.
Replacing windows in the winter may seem counterintuitive, but the fact is, it's a great time to really feel the difference of high-performance windows from Valdecas.
When it's time to consider new windows, siding, and doors for your home, you need to look no further. Sebastian Gorka here to tell you about Valdecas. Valdecas has been the trusted name chosen by thousands of homeowners, and they should be your number one choice too. But what's really behind the name Valdecas? Over 25 years of a team dedicated to providing you with the best customer service experience and products that truly bring value to your home. They are a Pella Platinum Elite Status certified contractor for a reason. They have an A+ rating with the BBB, as well as high ratings and positive reviews on both Google and Houzz. Schedule your free in-house consultation at Valdecas.com.
Ask about exclusive manufacturer warranties and the Valdecas 10-year workmanship guarantee.
Don't wait. Book today at Valdecas.com. For the best in class, it's Valdecas.
The Real Story with Jeannie Ives continues on AM 560. The Answer.
Welcome. Thanks for joining me tonight. This is The Real Story with Jeannie Ives. Phone number here, 312-642-5600. I invite your questions and comments about any of the topics. Here at The Real Story, we tend to focus on Illinois issues. But we cover anything that has even a national interest that deals with Illinois as well. And we'll often do foreign policy as well because I love that stuff. Anyway, if you're just listening in, you may not be aware, but there's elections coming up, your local elections on April 1st. And the reason I say this is because typically you get maybe 10, 12, 15, maybe 20% turnout in these local elections. And yet on the ballot in your local election is going to be over 90% of your property tax bill. You know that bill that you keep seeing ticks up all the time and you don't know why? Well, it's because you're electing people who don't want to give you a flat rate, that just think that you are a piggy bank for their higher salaries, their special projects, their pensions as well. And that's what happens. When people don't show up to vote, then guess what? The union comes out and they get their people in. And the biggest bite out of your property taxes is taken by your local school districts. So who you elect on school districts is not just important financially. It's also important for other reasons. Curriculum, wokeness, the trans issue, just everything. What are they focused on? Are they doing Portrait of a Graduate, or are they doing things that really matter to students' self-esteem? What are their extracurricular activities like? All of this is decided in part by your school board, or it should be decided by your school board. Now, we know they're usually co-opted by the superintendent, and those superintendents and their administrative staff have a lot of sway with the school board. And that's why you need good people with a strong background who know what they're talking about to be on your local school board. So again, in Illinois, in our area, April 1st are the consolidated elections. Early voting opens March 17th. And for us in this neck of the woods, it is spring break time. April 1st, that Tuesday is falling right in the middle of spring break. And so you're going to have a lot of people who may show up on election day and vote in these consolidated elections, but maybe on spring break and just forgot to early vote. So if you want to take back your school districts, if you want a focus on student achievement and student well-being, then you need to pay attention and you need to show up and know who to vote for in your local school district. It's just that important. Other things that are going to be on the ballot include township races, park district races, community college races, regional school superintendent race, your own city villages. Those are really important races too. Your city village, could be your mayor's up. It could be just some of your trustees or your council members are up. Everybody's a little bit different on how they cycle those around, but these local elections matter. They may even matter more than who you elect as state rep, to be quite frank. And by the way, a lot of times your state reps come from the ranks of city council members. I certainly did. I started out on Wheaton City Council. That's what But here to discuss the local race in his area, because he's a candidate for it, is Tom Chavez. I met Tom about 4 years ago in the midst of the COVID stuff. He came out for my Christopher Rufo event that we had, and we've been good friends ever since then. He started EPIC, Elmhurst Parents for Integrity in Curriculum, and he recruited some candidates to win, and they did not make it in 2023. Well, Tom doesn't give up easily. He's back at it again in 2025 to run for school board, and it is a very difficult race in Elmhurst. Even it's been captured by a bunch of, I would say, woke women. So, Tom, I want to just thank you so much for coming on. Tell me, why are you running?
Well, first I want to say thank you, Jeannie, for having me here, and that I want to compliment you that you are a true warrior for everything that we're working for and everything that is good in this country. It's really been a pleasure to get to know you, and I've learned a lot from your courage. And so I really appreciate the opportunity to come in and talk about these issues because they're local for me, but they're also national. You know, nationally we have an issue with public education, and in our state we have an issue with education. And a community like Elmhurst, where we've become very affluent, we have an issue in our school system. We are not educating our kids properly. So I was asked to respond to a questionnaire in the local newspaper a couple of weeks ago. And the first question was, you know, what is the most important issue? And it was the same issue 4 years ago when I first ran, and it continues to be the same issue today, which is academic proficiency. The district is constantly trying to steer people away from the discussion around academics because the academics are terrible. This year, the state of Illinois reported, the State Board of Education, the data is available to everybody, that York High School outcomes for ELA and math dropped 4%. So math is now at 49, and ELA is now at 50%.
So ELA is English Language Arts. So basically, you've got 50% of the kids at York High School, a very affluent school district, by the way, very affluent. Only 50% of the kids read or do math at grade level.
Right, and down 4%. And it's actually
down 4% from last year.
Correct. And if you go back to 2021, when the current superintendent took over, it's about 6%, 7% drop from then. Now, this is during a time when the district is spending money on expensive consultants. They are spending money, we're at $19,000 per student. That doesn't include the capital projects that the district is doing. We are spending a lot of money. And they continue to tell us that we are going to improve, and yet we don't. So one of the comments I made in my commentary.
And by the way, just so you know, we have something out there called an adequacy target, like are you adequately funded? And according to the own state information, you are overfunded. You're spending plenty of money to educate these students, and you still only educate 50% of them. So 2 kids walk in to York High School, only 1 after 4 years walks out proficient in reading and math.
Right. And so when the district tries to point you in the direction of looking at 5th grade and 8th grade and 4th grade IAR scores, which of course are important, what I try to get them to focus on is that the outcomes matter the most, because your children, if you're listening and you live in Elmhurst, your children are getting scholarships, college entrance based on what they do in high school. So if those outcomes are not good, likely your children aren't going to thrive post-high school. So that's the point, right? So those outcomes matter. Whatever's happening between elementary, middle school, and the end of high school in District 205, it's not working for 50% of the children at $19,000 per student. So that's an important thing to explain to people. And then you say, well, what is happening? And one of the reasons I'm running again for school board, even though my children have all moved on, I have college graduates and 1 still in college, is that I care. I care very much about the children in the community, particularly the children that don't come from affluent families. Many of those children are the ones that are suffering the most from bad curriculum, poor policy. You can go right down the list. There's a track record, and I pointed out in my comments in the patch, and I say, the superintendent, who we're paying about $350,000 a year, who 20 years into her retirement will make another $6 million. So she's paid very well. And I always go back to, if you're a Patriots fan, Bill Belichick says he's famous for saying, do your job. Her job is academic excellence. That is her primary job. And if
She's been
not,
there 4 years, and scores are dropping. She gets paid $350,000 a year.
She gets paid, and
Yeah.
unfortunately,
Time to fire that coach.
Exactly. So, so she has a track record, which I point out in my comments. Right, her policies, her curriculum, the things that she has put in place. For my son's senior class, I think it was 70% of the students in that senior class missed a month of school. There were no tests. There was no homework. No final exams. And, I hate to go back and beat the dead horse about curriculum and the American Street book, but that was a book that I challenged at a school board meeting 2 years ago.
Okay, Tom, we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, I want you to talk about the book, talk about some of the other issues, not just grades and finances, but some of the woke indoctrination that's going on at your school. We'll be right back. And we'll also take some callers. Thank you for calling, and we'll take those calls too. We'll be right back. This is The Real Story with Jeannie Ives.
Did you know that AM 560 Radio has a full-service digital marketing division called Salem Surround? If you're a business decision maker, listen up. AM 560 listeners are everywhere your potential audience is. So are our incredible targeting capabilities. We localize digital marketing and put it within reach of every business, small and large, in Chicagoland and beyond. Salem Surround offers AI-powered marketing solutions that reach your ideal audience. Whether or not you tap into the proven live, local, and emotional connection that AM 560 Radio brings, Salem Surround offers a total marketing solution to our partners. All-in-one digital solutions that provide targeted local digital and social media ads, Google AdWords management, website services, video strategy, search optimization, and even a management dashboard to offer you total campaign updates and transparency. Your Salem Surround representative is located right here in Chicago. Experience the Salem Surround digital revolution today. Call 847-472-8951. That's 847-472-8951.
MyPillow is excited to announce that they're having the first ever mega sale on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save over 50% on this season's flannel sheets. Queen size only $59.98. Kings only $69.98. They sell out fast every year, so order now. Save 30% on their brand new My Crosses. They're designed in the likeness of the one Mike has worn every day for 20 years. They come in men's and women's, and they're made right here in the USA. Get the 2025 6-piece My Towel sets for only $29.98. The initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. And the best-selling standard MyPillow, just $14.98. To take advantage of the first ever mega sale, go to MyPillow.com or call 800-489-0201. That's 800-489-0201 and use promo code LIBERTY. But wait, remember that $75 free shipping rule? Well, that ship has sailed because right now every order ships absolutely free. MyPillow.com, promo code LIBERTY.
Why do so many companies count on Riverdale Plating and Heat Treating? Consistent high level of quality, an ISO certified and A2LA accredited heat treating, electroplating, fastener sorting, and packaging job shop. Riverdale Plating and Heat Treating meets and exceeds client specifications. Whether a high volume or a small production run, their processes ensure a job well done. Celebrating their 15th anniversary this year, they specialize in metal fasteners and stampings for automotive and other industries. And with a newly expanded sorting department, there are many sorting and packaging options to meet your needs. Riverdale Plating and Heat Treating serves customers in Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Ohio, Wisconsin, and Tennessee, with easy access to all forms of transportation from an automated facility in Riverdale, Illinois, just 15 minutes southwest of Chicago. Want consistent quality? Call Riverdale Plating and Heat Treating, 708-849-2050, or visit riverdalePHT.com.
When you hear the term living better, what do you think about? More money, a bigger house, maybe a yacht? What about how you feel physically? How do you wake up each day? How do you sleep during the night? What activities you can and cannot do? When you feel good, life is good. So if pain is affecting your life, see how Relief Factor can help. Relief Factor is a daily supplement that fights pain naturally, developed by doctors. It doesn't just mask pain temporarily. It helps reduce or even eliminate pain. How do I know? Absolutely am a customer. I take Relief Factor daily. No lower back pain for me anymore. In fact, the longer you take it, the more effective it is. Give their 3-week quick start a try. It's only $19.95, less than $1 a day. Just one phone call, 800-4-RELIEF, 800-4-RELIEF. Relief Factor, relief wherever you're hurting in 3 weeks or even days. Relief Factor can give you a chance to rediscover the true meaning of living better again. Visit ReliefFactor.com or call 800-4-RELIEF. That's 800-4-RELIEF for the one and only Relief Factor.
Now, more of The Real Story with your host, Jeannie Ives.
All right, welcome back. We're still in conversation. We got Tom Chavez. He's courageously running for school board in Elmhurst. Boy, you never thought it'd come to the time when you had to be courageous, a courageous conservative to run in Elmhurst. But times have changed. Elmhurst, right there on the edge of Cook County, boy, they have just come in and they have found a nice community to sit down, and they have changed the school system, haven't they, Tom?
They've changed it a lot, and what I'd really like to see happen in Elmhurst is the district get back to where it was 2 decades ago when I moved to Elmhurst, and the reason why I moved to Elmhurst was for the school district.
Mm-hmm.
But it has changed dramatically. And one of the things you and I, Jeannie, were talking about during the break was that we have to make a distinguish between good teachers, which there are many in the district that just want to show up every day and do their job, and the activists. And those are the people that are driving the school district into the ground, right? And before we went to the break, we talked about curriculum, which is important because curriculum is how your kids learn and how that's created in the books and the materials that are put in front of your children. And a couple of years ago, I went to a board meeting and had discovered that one of the books they wanted to add to curriculum was vulgar. It was a 3rd grade level book. And I went to the school board and I read the book out loud, and the meeting erupted into chaos. But 2 years later, test scores come out, ELA scores drop 4%. I go back to the district and I asked the superintendent pointedly, I said, Keisha, what told you in your doctoral program that giving a 3rd grade level book to a 9th grader, who, by the way, many of them struggling from the pandemic, would elevate their ELA outcomes? And I told her, don't even answer, because nothing told you that. So it's all ideological. It's not aimed at improving their reading outcomes. It's aimed at indoctrination. It can be the only answer to that, right? Why would you give 3rd grade books to 9th graders? There's no reason.
Especially the one that was pornographic. And I want to bring up another point here before we move on to other things that deal with this. But we had the same issue at Batavia Public High School. Breakthrough Ideas wrote about this. I had Lori Higgins, our best cultural and education writer. Batavia Public High School leaders make a mess. And she basically said they were reading a book called The School for Good Mothers. It's a dystopian novel about government intrusiveness. But it is frightening how pornographic it is. And it took one student to tell her parent, and then everybody found out the truth, and guess what? They pulled the book. So what I'm saying to you is you need to know what they're teaching in your public school, maybe even private schools, honestly. And if you do say something like Tom did, he got that book pulled. They don't teach that book anymore, right, at Elmhurst?
Well, they reduced it to 17 pages. I haven't checked lately, but they still had a. But it's pretty much gone from the curriculum. But at the end of the day, when you look back at that situation, it wasn't just the activist teachers that said it was a great book. It was the superintendent. It was the school board that sat there and in the meeting said, we read it. It's a great book.
And wait, was that all groupthink too? That's the other problem I have with school boards. I mean, if you elect Tom Chavez, it doesn't matter if it's 1 against 6. He can bring things to light that they never talk about, that they won't say in public comment, so that nobody is going to know about financial things, curriculum things, policy changes. Like at some point, weren't they doing block lessons plans, or they thought that was going to be like the next savior to educational, outcomes improving? And so this is the stuff that you don't hear about unless somebody is in there who is unafraid to talk about it in public comment, in the public.
Right. And at the end of the day, common sense would tell anybody that that's not the way to help kids learn.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
And you have the superintendent, the board rubber stamping it and telling everybody how great it is. And then a couple of years later, they're scratching their head going, gee, why did ELA scores go down 4%? They promised a 3% improvement. They went down 4%. It was a 7% miss. And so now you're setting kids, and the issue that parents need to understand is that the remediation for these kids who are not at grade level by graduation falls right on the shoulders of parents who have to pay for it. When your kids go to college, if they get in, they're going to have to play catch up. They're going to have to learn to be college level in math. They're going to have to learn to read and write at college level in order to successfully complete college, right? And so there's a forum coming up on Wednesday in District 205 at Churchville Middle School. It's the PTA Council Forum. They gave me the questions. The first one is, should we really be focusing on test scores when we have all these, should we be focusing on test scores because there are other outcomes that we should be talking about, life ready, career ready. Well, how do you measure life ready? What's the metric for that? They don't want to be, if you take away measuring test scores, what you do is you take away all the accountability, which is what they don't want, right? It should be very straightforward. Your job, academic excellence, here's what you're supposed to learn by the time or be proficient at by the time you go K through 12, right? If you're a taxpayer in Elmhurst, if you think about that, you're paying $19,000 a year. K through 12, you're paying about $230,000 per student, and they should at the very least be competent in core subjects, math and reading. There's no reason why they shouldn't be.
Well,
right?
for those students who do matriculate into community college, we do collect that information at the State Board of Education. And for Elmhurst, for rather York High School, over 14% of the kids have to have college remediation when they go on to community college. And so there you go. That costs money.
Yeah, and another thing, and when you have your ear to the ground in Elmhurst, what you realize is that nearly every parent has a tutor. And I've said this often enough, and I want to say it again, is that the people that seem to care the least about these bad outcomes are the people in Elmhurst who have wealth, privilege, affluence, and are completely unaffected by these bad outcomes, right? These are the ones like they'll go to the wine and cheese party and they all want to be liked, so they don't want to say the wrong thing, right? The wrong thing is telling the district it needs to do a better job.
Okay, so Tom, before we move on here, I do want to move on. So part of the reason that I had you in tonight is because you had come in and you'd shown me a picture of what was happening at one of the plays, and it was I find it completely inappropriate for school kids to be viewing this type of art, so to speak. And I just want you to briefly tell our audience what that was about, because we only have about 2 minutes left, and then I'm going to take phone calls after the break. So sorry.
Okay, very quickly. So there was a play that apparently won an award. The American Street was an award-winning book, so it's the same thing. You give it an award, you can push it off on kids. But anyway, long story short, teachers were allowed to opt their kids out of academic learning to go see this play. If you didn't show up for the play, you missed class time. So you were basically forced to go see it. Students were appalled by it. It was, vulgar. It was, basically, showing it was an ideological play that basically showed men to be misogynists. One of the, and there was a photo that a student took where another student is, grabbing another student by the backside, and to the point where, these aren't meek students, but they were all repulsed by it. So the point is that, that should be something that, you shouldn't be requiring in lieu of academic time, considering how grades are. And it's also something you shouldn't force somebody else's children to see and listen to.
Well, they weren't just grabbing their backside. They were in a hug, and the guy was groping his butt. That's what was happening. That was what was displayed on stage. I saw the picture. All these other kids must have been horrified to have to sit through this. And if they didn't sit through it, they got docked as missing class. Mm-hmm. And this is what's happening at Elmhurst Public High School, and they call that great. Right.
And there's, people are outraged. The people on one side are outraged that the picture's on there. I said, well, if you take a student and you're a provocateur, and you don't want people to respond, you don't want their children to say something to their parents, you don't want their parents to say something to the school district or other parents who are equally appalled by it, that's not how it works. If you don't want to be spotlighted, then don't be in the spotlight.
Okay, that's all we have time for. Thanks a lot, Tom Chavez, running for Elmhurst School Board. And we'll be right back. And if my callers could hold on, I do want to take your questions about local elections. And we'll do that right after this break. Thank you. This is The Real Story.
She's gone from reporting on the sidelines to making sense of the headlines. It's the Michelle Tafoya podcast.
The media is trying to lampoon this group. Yes, they are. They're calling them a bunch of 19-year-olds in hoodies. People go to war as soon as they're 18. You're okay with that. But a 19-year-old genius trying to help the Treasury save money? Oh, God forbid.
Subscribe to the Michelle Tafoya podcast today on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, or at SalemPodcastNetwork.com.
Honey, we're not moving, but we gotta do something about this kitchen.
Funny you mention it. I just stopped by Forever Remodeling's new showroom in Niles. I saw over a dozen kitchen and bathroom layouts they designed. They even offered to stop by the house and give us a free in-home design consultation.
What'd you tell them?
That we're free today?
Visit foreverremodeling.com today. That's the number 4, everremodeling.com. Forever Remodeling, stress-free and high-quality remodeling.
News, opinion, insight. This is AM 560, The Answer. WIND, Chicago. Streaming at 560theanswer.com on the AM 560 mobile app or tell your smart speaker to play.
Canada gives a fond farewell to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. I'm Kathleen Maloney, Fox News. The country has chosen his successor. Fox's Jill Nato with the details.
Canada has a new Prime Minister designate. It's former central banker Mark Carney, who will serve as both Prime Minister and leader of the Liberal Party. He's taking over for Justin Trudeau, who's held Canada's top office since 2015, but his popularity's been slipping, and in January he announced he was stepping down as both Prime Minister and leader of the Liberals. He gave a rousing goodbye to his party as they named Carney the new leader.
We have an opportunity and therefore a responsibility to ensure that Canada stays the best country on earth.
Canada is supposed to hold its general election in October, but it may be called sooner. Jill Nato, Fox News.
President Trump continues navigating an end to the war between Russia and Ukraine.
An exclusive interview with President Trump on Sunday Morning Futures. Maria Bartiromo asked the president if he is comfortable that if he walks away from Ukraine, the country might not survive. This was President Trump's answer.
Well, it may not survive anyway, but, we have some weaknesses with Russia. It takes two. Look, it was not going to happen, that war, and it happened. So now we're stuck with this mess.
President Trump also said he expects Ukraine to sign that mineral rights deal. And on Fox News Sunday, Senator Lindsey Graham says he wants to see American arms shipments to Ukraine resume and intelligence sharing also continue.
Fox's Lucas Tomlinson. Thousands gathering at the Edmund Pettus Bridge for the 60th Bridge Crossing Jubilee, a celebration of civil rights leaders who marched from Selma to Montgomery in 1965. America is listening to Fox News.
Now, your official weather forecast.
Through the overnight hours, it'll be clear with low 38, breezy and warm tomorrow with sunshine all day. Just a great day to be outside with high 68. Mainly clear and mild tomorrow night, low 46. Breezy and a bit cooler on Tuesday with clouds and sunshine, high 52. Partly cloudy Tuesday night with low 38. Sun through high clouds on Wednesday, high 53. I'm Ruth O'Brien on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
The fight against abortion in Illinois has never been more important than it is right now. Thanks to our elected officials, Illinois has become an abortion tourism destination. The number of abortions in our state continues to grow, despite the fact that crisis pregnancy centers outnumber abortion clinics almost 3-to-1. Now, thanks to a new effort by Caring Network, it's possible to reach abortion-minded women to provide peace of mind and security to help them choose life. This new Reach Her First initiative seeks to provide women with the assurance and information they need before they choose an an abortion, but Caring Network needs your help to reach women who are considering abortion. For a one-time gift of just $150, you can help reach 5 women and help them choose life. That's all it takes to prevent an abortion. To make that gift, just go to 560theanswer.com/caring. That's 560theanswer.com/caring.
Hi, I'm Ken Mariotti, owner of Woodland Windows and Doors, a third-generation family-owned business since 1969. We know you're bombarded by choices when shopping for new windows or doors, so we're inviting you to experience the Woodland difference. For decades, we have been transforming living spaces with Marvin Windows, a fifth-generation family business. Marvin replacement windows have been known to increase the warmth of your cold rooms by 10 degrees. Think about that, 10 degrees warmer. When you welcome Woodland into your home, you will get a product expert to transform your living spaces, full-time, dedicated professional installers that you can trust in your home, along with the best products like Marvin. These are the reasons we're proud of our 5-star reviews and family legacy. No gimmicks, no pressure, and upfront pricing are why Woodland Windows and Doors is your trusted window and door expert in Chicagoland. Visit woodlandwindows.com to book your free in-home expert consultation. That's woodlandwindows.com, or stop by our showroom at the corner of Lake and Geary in Roselle.
Attention American homeowners, you're under attack. Your home and equity could be vulnerable to cyber thieves. There's only one company that completely stops them, and that company is Equity Protect. Equity Protect prevents any attempts to steal your home, equity, and ownership 24/7. Get your free risk report today by texting the word HOME to 94878. That's right, text the word HOME to 94878 to get your free risk report. Keep your equity and legacy safe with Equity Protect.
Portions of the following show may be pre-recorded.
AM 560, The Answer. The Real Story with Jeannie Ives continues on AM 560, The Answer.
All right, welcome back. That was a fast first hour. Let's get to some phone calls. We've got Greg in LaGrange. We've been talking about local elections, and Greg, it looks like he wants to talk about what's going on in LaGrange at their local elections. Let me see if I can get Greg up here. Greg, are you there?
Hello.
Hey, welcome. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining me on The Real Story.
Oh, no worries. One thing as I was telling your Macbeth,
my producer.
I know, being here long enough in this area, I know by what signs the neighbors put out, who not to vote for. But there is no. Is there a site that you can actually look at and peruse the candidates? I would imagine that our local rag, the Landmark, would have something, but I don't have a lot of faith in what it reports anymore.
So, Greg, thanks for the question. That's a great question. So, my guest that was on, the Patch oftentimes will do a candidate survey where you can read the information. The Daily Herald will locally do some of that, too. They'll have candidates fill out a survey for these local races. I would not necessarily go with their recommendations in their editorial picks all the time, but sometimes they do get it right. Sometimes this is just one of those things where you have got to know who you trust that does know. And a lot of times, for me, you should go to your Republican Party and find out who they're supporting. That is not always a definite go, but for the most part, it's better than, and certainly if you're voting on township races, you should vote for the Republican township slates because they're going to be the least likely to raise your taxes and the most likely to actually do the right thing with your money. What else, Greg? Anything? No? Okay. He's gone. All right, Jim. We've got Jim in South Elgin. Welcome to the program, Jim. Thanks for joining me.
Well, good show, and maybe next week you can have Chris Lawson from King County call in because they want to impose for the first time a countywide sales tax of just under 1%. Because what's happening since Lawson left, and he actually came back on again, he's the treasurer because he saw all the irresponsible spending and what they were not doing in King County. So what they want to do now to cover up for their sins, they want to have a first-time a countywide sales tax, which is going to be voted on April 1st. And so people have to come out. I think there's a lot of resistance against it, but we still need to get the word out. People got to go to the polls and vote no, because there's no reason to feed a fat pig called government.
That's right. Well, you know what? There are enough taxes in this state already, and I don't care what level of government you are at. We do not need more taxes, period. We need to cut the spending. And if King County's like DuPage County, they give well over $1 million away to all sorts of nonprofits. Look, if I want to go give to a nonprofit, I'll just do it on my own. Jim, thanks a lot for the phone call. I appreciate it, and I will definitely consider having Chris Lausen on. He's a great guy. Next, let's go to Roger in Plainfield.
Hi, Jeannie. Roger Kempa in Plainfield. I just want to implore everyone to get out and vote in those local elections. Get control of their local school boards, their local governments, the townships, the local villages. And the best source, it's not the news media anymore. Check out the local Republican township organizations. You get stuff in the mail, too. Read it and vote Republican. And
thank you. Thanks, Roger.
I just want to say the local school races, there's one candidate for the Hinsdale High School District 86 candidate, Andrew Catton, who's a conservative who wants to get the teachers back on a five-day work week.
Well, that makes sense. All right. Hey, Roger, that's great. Okay. Callers, it's 312-642-5600. If you want to call in with your own local recommendation, we'll take those all night. And I've got my own to add to it. Do we have Garrett on the line? All right. Oh, my gosh. My next guest is on the line. The guest everybody's been waiting for tonight, it's Garrett Ziegler. He is the co-founder of Marco Polo. You've probably read about him lately. I know he was featured on Laura Ingraham, at least on one episode of this week. And that's because Hunter Biden has been after him for 2 years. But Hunter Biden lost his sugar uncle. And he had to drop the lawsuit that he has had against Garrett Ziegler and Marco Polo for simply publishing his laptop contents, which is now public anyway. The FBI had a copy anyway. And so they want to drop that lawsuit because they can't afford to continue it. Meanwhile, Garrett has racked up thousands of dollars in legal expenses. And we just wanted to get his take on that. Garrett is a local guy. He's from Effingham. He's got a beautiful wife and I think 3 kids now. He was one of Peter Navarro's close associates. So, Garrett, thanks a lot. Thanks for coming on the program. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Jeannie. It's always a pleasure.
So tell us us your reaction. What's going on with this whole thing?
Well, it's a federal case. Hunter is suing me in the Central District of California, Los Angeles. And he is seeking to dismiss this case without prejudice, which is a preposterous action because if he finds a new sugar brother, he could, in theory, just restart the case again. So any sane defendant in our position would demand that if he's going to drop this, it be with prejudice, meaning the case can't be brought again. Mm-hmm. And B, that he pay our legal fees, which are for this case alone is $197,000 as of Thursday. And so that is what our opposition was. The press, even the New York Post, which is a publication I like typically, they didn't get it completely right in that they said that I didn't want him to drop the case. I do want him to drop the case. I just don't want it to be on terms that are egregious. And right now he's requesting terms that are egregious. And the cover story, I do think he's out of cash, but that is in essence a cover story because Hunter has been out of cash since the fall when his dad stopped running for re-election. The reason why he asked to dismiss this on an ex parte basis, which means that we only got 24 hours to respond to his motion, is that we scheduled depositions for his sugar brother and Hunter. And if he didn't do an ex parte motion, Jeannie, they would have had to set for those depositions or be held in contempt for not showing up. So that's the real story, that we were going to depose Kevin, and Kevin is the money bags. That's the sugar brother who the IRS whistleblower said they weren't allowed to interview because he was connected to the CIA. Those aren't my words. Those are the IRS whistleblowers who testified to Congress. So the poor starving artist shtick
And the fact that his rental home, not his real home, his rental home burned down. And, of course, we're not ogres. We hate that anybody's rental home burns down. We don't want anybody's house to burn down. It's a terrible thing. But nevertheless, if you're like us, you actually, have a homeowner's insurance policy. Hunter was just a renter.
Right.
So the person who is inconvenienced by the fire the most is the person who owned the rental home, which ain't Hunter. So the story doesn't stand up to legal scrutiny, which is his lawyers on Monday morning last week should have wrote us and said, hey, our client doesn't have the resources to continue this litigation. In recognition of this, sign this stipulation to dismiss the case with prejudice. And guess what? We probably would have signed it. But he wanted his cake. He wanted to have his cake and eat it too. Why would I sign a stipulation to dismiss without prejudice, which means in 18 months, if he gets a new sugar daddy for whatever reason, he can bring it up against me again. I want to move on with my life and maybe go help the government.
That's amazing. So I think the bigger issue is he didn't want to sit for a deposition.
Precisely. Because he knows that I know more than even the congressional investigators. So the congressional investigators interviewed Hunter last January, as they did his sugar brother. And actually, I think Hunter's was in the first week of February. But over a year ago, the congressional investigators interviewed both Kevin and Hunter. And, I don't believe in grade inflation. So I would, meaning I can kind of be a stick in the mud. So I think that they probably did a B or a B- job. There was a whole class of conduct that they didn't even cover. And so although those depositions were useful, and especially because the transcripts were released, they do not want to be deposed by me. And unlike most parties in a civil litigation matter, I'll actually go to the deposition. We told them that I was going to be there, and they hate me so much they can't even be in the same room with me. So obviously I can't ask the questions, but I was just going to be peppering a lawyer with which questions to ask these guys. Because remember, there was a criminal investigation of Kevin Morris into campaign finance violations and money laundering.
Yep.
Because this guy gave $7 million in forgivable loans to Hunter Biden. So not only, these loans, Hunter doesn't have to declare them as income because they're papered over as loans, but Morris didn't even pay gift tax on them. So this is in the millions of dollars of dirty money range. And it could be one of the greatest scandals of the 2020s is this Hollywood entertainment lawyer who has connections to the CIA basically cleaned up the First Son's mess.
So did this Kevin Morris guy, did he also get pardoned by President Biden?
No. And that's why another reason why he doesn't want to be deposed. Hunter's just hates me personally and is a big pansy. Kevin is your audience should know that Kevin is also suing me in California state court. In that case, it's cost me $240,000. So,
in state court here in Illinois?
No, in California.
Both of them are in California. One's federal, one's state, both in California. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, insane, right? It's the only state worse than Illinois in terms of governance level. So I've got to navigate the court systems in the only state more corrupt than Illinois.
So I'm adding this up. You're at about $450,000 in legal expenses between the two.
Precisely, and Marco Polo has raised $900,000 in this time frame. So literally, Jeannie, half of our expenses have been lawfare. Half, and it's absurd. So that's why we're asking that, hey, if you're going to dismiss these things, reimburse us our legal fees. Because we've had to scrape together all this time. Mm-hmm. Most of our donations are going towards lawfare. And again, nothing they've said, this whole campaign against me and calling me all these names in the press, they've never called me a liar. They've never said anything we've put in our book is false. Because unlike them, I believe in the Ten Commandments. So I'm not going, we believe it's a sin to say something about somebody that's not true. So I would never want to put anything false in any of our publications or writing about Hunter Biden. But they're not, so they're not saying that these guys just smear me and make up lies about me. No, they're saying Kevin Morris sued me for intentional infliction of emotional distress, and he's 62 years old.
Yeah.
This my is 3-year-old. Mm-hmm. This is my 3-year-old has emotional distress when he doesn't get a snack, right? I mean, this is a 61-year-old man-child.
He's probably like a 3-year-old. No, come on. face it. Yeah. No, I mean, so the other part of this is that, it does feel like Hunter should be still culpable for some of the stuff, but the pardon was so blanket. However, do you know anything new? Is that pardon maybe going to be reversed because it doesn't seem legitimate?
I don't know why I don't know why the feds aren't challenging it. The pardon the only thing comparable is Ford's pardon of Nixon, and that was only half of the time. Ford's pardon of Nixon went through January 20th of 1969, when Nixon took office, through August 9th. So it was in his entire presidency. Hunter got twice that amount, 10 years. And so we don't actually know if these broad pardons are constitutional. As a nerd and just as somebody who's followed this story, in my opinion, more closely than anybody in the West, I always say the West because there's probably some Chinese intel agent who knows it better than me. But anybody why I would love to have a Biden v. U.S. Supreme Court case that tests the validity, because I'm a textualist. So the Constitution says he may grant pardon and reprieves for any offenses against the United States, but there's a real argument that he has to specify which offenses he's getting pardoned for. That has never been challenged. Yep. So he not only did it to his son, but he did it to his brother, his sister, his other brother, and his brother's wife. So there's 5 pardons back to January 1st of 2014 that should be challenged in court. And I would love a SCOTUS to weigh in, especially now that we have, I know Barrett's been a disappointment, but nevertheless, we do have 5 to 4, not even counting Barrett.
Right.
I would love for the SCOTUS to weigh in right now and say, yes, the president does have the power to grant pardons, but he has to specify which criminal act that the person did to receive the pardon. So I'm not sure if the feds are going to have that backbone. Usually AUSAs are timid, but the last time I have not spoken to you since the conviction. Obviously, I listen to it
right.
your show every week on YouTube, but you had somebody from Illinois Policy on right after the conviction of Madigan.
Right.
And I would love, it took some backbone from Lausch and other people to really go after this guy. And I would love to see that backbone with Hunter Biden and the siblings, especially Jimmy. Jimmy's the one who looks
actually, I'd like to see the whole darn family, thing played out in a movie, and somebody go after all of them. Hey, Garrett. So again, just to wrap this up, where does your case stand right now? What is the next move?
The federal case is in the judge's hands. He has Hunter's ex parte motion and our opposition there too.
Okay.
There's like 5 different choices he could pick. The second he does, we're posting about it. And I'd love to come back on the program to talk about it then.
That would be great.
The state court case with Morris is at the appellate level, and we have argument in that in May. And remember, the state court case is an anti-SLAPP. So if we win that, Jeannie, he is by statute mandated to pay our legal fees. So by the end of 2025, there could be a check from Kevin Morris to Marco Polo for about $280,000. By statute, the judge doesn't have any discretion. The judge in the federal case has wide discretion. He could just grant it to Hunter without prejudice, and we don't get a cent. So I'm praying about that.
Absolutely. Well, he's Garrett Ziegler, hometown guy, home state guy rather, and we just love having you on. You're so articulate about this, and you've been just such a courageous guy going after these thugs. We really appreciate your efforts.
Thank you.
Where again can people connect with you and donate to the cause?
Yes, thank you. The book that I alluded to tonight is at BidenReport.com. Get your free copy there. There's physical copies. We're utilizing, speaking of Chicago and Illinois, we're now utilizing a Chicago printer. So get a physical copy. Support. I can't say the name of the printer because I don't want them attacked, but they've been giving it to us at cost. It's been an absolute godsend. So we're supporting Chicagoland. We've sold over 20,000 physical copies with no marketing and no New York Times bestseller list. So go to BidenReport.com. You can read the book for free via PDF and get your physical copy.
All right. Thanks so much. Okay, we'll be right back. This is The Real Story with Jeannie Ives.
Mike Gallagher, sees craziness in Germany.
And I want you to hear 60 Minutes.
Is it a crime to insult somebody in public?
Yes. Yes, it is.
And it's...
Yes, it is. No, yes. It's a crime to insult somebody in public in Germany. And CBS is suggesting that would be good here.
The Mike Gallagher Show. Weekdays at 9, right before Dennis Prager at 11 on AM 560. The Answer.
So how's the separation going? Are you guys able to work things out?
No. I think we're headed for divorce.
That sucks. Gonna be an expensive legal battle?
Well, no, that's one thing we agree on, actually. Arbitration.
Arbitration? Like mediation?
Sort of, but better. We'll have a firm decision.
Oh, that's easier. Who's your arbitrator?
Bert Hochberg.
That attorney at Schiller, DeCanto, and Fleck?
Yeah, senior partner. Comes highly recommended.
Are you facing divorce or a family law issue? Burton S. Hochberg offers arbitration services, a dispute resolution process that will save you time, money, and the complexity of litigation. Let Burton hear and resolve your claims with choices that best suit you and yours. To discuss, call Bert directly. Or even better, have your attorney call Bert at 773-255-6150. That's 773-255-6150. Again, 773-255-6150. No one knows arbitration like Bert Hochberg. Why go through a difficult divorce? Call Bert at Schiller, DeCanto, and Fleck, Chicago's preeminent family law firm since 1981.
Maha starts with Virago, making America healthy again. With the worst flu season in years, you need an immune system boost. The stronger your immune system, the stronger your body fights and defends against So get Virago. Virago Immune Enhancement Support is a unique blend of 23 nutraceuticals, ingredients that have been available as individual nutraceuticals, but now working in synergy to maximize their effects. Recommended by medical physicians, dentists, and other healthcare professionals, Virago is the nutraceutical cocktail for immune support. Developed to strengthen your immune system for quick response to immune challenges, for short and long-term immunity, antiviral, anti-inflammatory, antioxidant. It even protects your heart, kidneys, liver, all in a unique liquid supplement for better absorption. Order online at myvirago.com. That's myvirago.com. myvirago.com. Use coupon code IMMUNE to save 30%. Quality ingredients for optimum health. Maha. Making America healthy again starts with Virago.
Attention, hut! Listen up and listen up good. If you're tired of run-of-the-mill gifts, then get on over to aviatorfuel.com. You'll find unique military-style cocktail books and barware to go with it. At aviatorfuel.com, we've got the perfect gift for any soldier, sailor, Marine, or just red-blooded American. You'll especially love our military cocktail checklists, modeled off the real Army, Navy, and Marine pilot checklists that military aviators have used for decades. These award-winning books are authentic replicas, but instead of a procedure on how to handle an engine fire, you'll find the procedure for how to make a mojito, written with military jargon throughout. So pick up a cocktail checklist from aviatorfuel.com. Invite some old friends to share war stories over cocktails. Your perfect libation is inside the cocktail checklist. And don't forget matching military-themed barware. Go to aviatorfuel.com and get ready to raise a glass to the brave men and women who serve our country. That's aviatorfuel.com.
You're listening to The Real Story with your host, Jeannie Ives.
All right, thanks for joining me tonight. Again, if you want to call in, give us your suggestions for these local races, I'm happy to take your call. 312-642-5600 is the number. Now, there is something I want to talk about because this happened in Springfield this week. HB 2436, it's Rep. Gon Gershowitz. She's a Chicago Democrat, and she ran this bill that essentially says that taxpayers must actually, it authorizes Cook County public defenders to represent criminal illegals, even those located in other states, in both criminal and deportation procedures. And you just got to listen to this conversation. I'm going to play a couple clips because it's really important for people to understand how convoluted the conversations go down in committee. They never answer a straight question. Here's clip one. This is, by the way, going to be Adam Niemerg questioning the public defender who came in to testify about the bill.
Can you run me through the process of how somebody is detained and how they call your office? And can you run me through the entire process or a quick summarization on how this would work?
I'd hope to be very quick. And just like any involvement in the criminal justice system, there's a wide variety of circumstances. We could receive a call from the individual we're representing or from their friends or family letting us know. Someone could call in with just a question that may become apparent down the line after further research and inquiry as to whether or not they need representation. We could be made aware by our review of the court records that someone has been detained or brought into the immigration court system. So there's a variety of circumstances that could lead to the beginning of the case.
Okay, this is, there's a lot of clips here I would love to play, but I don't have time, so I'm going to play this one. This is Rep. Tipsword, a Republican, summing things up at the end.
We can't take them all, so it sounds like there's some discretionary issues you can have so you can choose who you take. Just how do you decide that? How do they come to you, and how do you decide what you're going to take?
Thank you, Representative. So we kind of briefly got into this before. Clients can come to our office in all means and manners based on whether they or their family have reached out, whether we've otherwise been made aware, whether someone has a concurrent state criminal law case where they're already receiving our constitutional representation. So there's a variety of ways we might meet an individual, but I agree with our sponsor representative that we do not represent everybody in any immigration court and don't have the capacity to do that.
Okay, I'm going to play the top of this, too, because this is the summary.
In reading, if I'm correct, this is for county residents of Cook County, basically, right? Over 3 million people. So it's a county resident who you would potentially take as a client, in most cases, somewhere outside of this state, Indiana, Wisconsin, wherever it may be. So it's going to be a county resident that you're going to represent. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay,
Okay, so you see what they're doing. They're going to represent criminal illegals, even if they're in another state, because they feel like that's their duty. That's what they're doing with your tax money. They're representing them both in the criminal cases and the deportation cases. The back and forth on this was obscene. Anyway, that's what they're doing. We'll be right back. We've got the Edgar County Watchdogs coming up after this break. Thanks for joining me. This is The Real Story with Jeannie Ives.
Larry Elder explains why nothing gets done in Washington.
This is sickening. President of the United States is elected. When Obama fired a whole bunch of U.S. attorneys, Eric Holder said elections matter. And you wonder why executive orders are not carried out. Because there are a whole bunch of people who either can't or won't, and there are no consequences when nothing gets done.
The Larry Elder Show, weeknights at 8, right before Sean Hannity at 10 on AM 560. The Answer.
Fox News, I'm Daria Aldinger. President Trump says a Russia-Ukraine peace deal may not be far off.
We're looking at a lot of things. We have big meetings coming up, as you know, in Saudi Arabia. That's going to include Russia. It'll be Ukraine. We'll see if we can get something done. The
president speaking to reporters after returning from a weekend at Mar-a-Lago. He says he's also looking at stronger sanctions and tariffs for Russia. By the time the president's new tariffs take effect on Canada, April 2nd, the country will likely have a new prime minister.
I will work day and night with one purpose, which is to build a stronger Canada for everyone.
The nation's Liberal Party elects former central bank Governor Mark Carney to replace Justin Trudeau. At least 5 people were injured when a small plane crashed near Lancaster, Pennsylvania. America listens to Fox News.
It's Reveille. President Trump was elected by the majority of Americans to be a disruptor. 6 weeks into his presidency, he's doing a great job. Trump has completely reset American policy domestically and abroad. His DOGE effort is exposing the corrupt spending that has bankrupted the U.S. Treasury. The only response by the left has been to lie about Trump's policies. Their latest attack is to say that the House budget resolution will take away Medicaid to vulnerable Americans. Illinois Governor Pritzker, vying for the position among Democrats as top ankle biter to Trump, has repeated this lie ad nauseum. Policy details matter, though, and voters should know the truth. First, nothing in the budget resolution mentions cuts to Medicaid. But if Republicans are planning a cut, it will and should be to the Medicaid expansion population. Medicaid was designed to provide health care primarily to disabled children and single adults with dependents. In 2013, Illinois Democrats took advantage of an Obamacare provision and expanded Medicaid coverage to single, able-bodied adults. 90% of that cost is picked up by the federal taxpayer, 10% by the state. At the time of the vote, the annual state cost for the expansion was projected at $210 million by 2020. But in 2025, that cost is now $750 million, covering 770,000 Illinoisans. Then Pritzker expanded coverage to illegal immigrants. That expansion program was estimated to cost $4 million a year, but has cost taxpayers over $1.6 billion in just over 4 years. Both programs are corrupt and need to end. Single able-bodied adults need to find employment, and illegal immigrants should be cut from the Medicaid rolls. Those are cuts most Americans agree with. I'm Jeannie Ives. Check out The Real Story with me Sunday nights from 7 to 9 p.m. and sign up for my newsletter at breakthrough-ideas.com.
MyPillow is excited to announce that they're having the first ever mega sale on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save over 50% on this season's flannel sheets. Queen size only $59.98. Kings only $69.98. They sell out fast every year, so order now. Save 30% on their brand new My Crosses. They're designed in the likeness of the one Mike has worn every day for 20 years. They come in men's and women's, and they're made right here in the USA. Get the 2025 6-piece My Towel sets for only $29.98. The initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. And the best-selling standard My Pillow, just $14.98. To take advantage of the first ever mega sale, go to MyPillow.com or call 800-489-0201. That's 800-489-0201 and use promo code LIBERTY. But wait, remember that $75 free shipping rule? Well, that ship has sailed because right now every order ships absolutely free. MyPillow.com, promo code LIBERTY.
Imagine using your skills and experiences to inspire young minds. We see the teacher in you. No matter your starting point, we can help you become a teacher. Teaching offers consistent pay, a pension, and summers off. Learn how you can be the teacher. Visit betheteacher.org. Sponsored by Grow Your Own Teachers, Illinois.
Hey, heard you're getting ready to move.
We just listed our house on the market.
Just make sure you have the right attorney.
Doesn't the real estate agent take care of all that?
They stay involved, but you want to make sure you have a great lawyer that's negotiating the terms, helping resolve inspection items, clearing up title issues, preparing the deed and other documents, and attending the closing.
The attorneys at Nauman & Associates in Elk Grove Village have decades of experience handling real estate transactions every day all over Chicagoland. NALawGroup.com.
We now return to The Real Story. Here's your host, Jeannie Ives.
Well, welcome. It's The Real Story with Jeannie Ives. We know in Illinois who's watching. That's, of course, the Edgar County Watchdogs, and they're here with me right now. And we've got a lot to cover tonight, so we're going to get right to it. John Kraft, you teed up this story, and I'm reading it, and I can't believe it. And this, by the way, is another thing that affects local elections going on right now, and people should pay attention. This one happens to be in Winnebago County. Why don't you explain it to people? This is there's some details here, folks, so listen carefully because it's really important what happened.
Okay, well, thanks for having us again, Jeannie. The issue with Pecatonica Township, Kirk and I have never come across this specific issue before, so I felt it was worthy of writing about. It deals with an election question. It deals with the powers of in this instance, the township clerk and the township electoral board, and the individual voter. The question that needs to be answered is when in this process of submitting your petitions, objecting to petitions, and the electoral board meeting and making a determination, when in that process does or should the township clerk lose her discretionary duty of not certifying a candidate? And I'm not sure that people unfamiliar with elections, but you file your petitions with the local election official, in this case, township clerk. anybody within the township can file an objection to your papers. Then the township electoral board has to meet and make a determination on that objection.
Right. This happens all the time, by the way. It's
correct.
Yes.
Now the clerk, if for instance, you're supposed to turn in 100 signatures and there's 25 per page, the clerk knows, hey, you got to turn in 4 pages and you only turn in 1. The clerk can make a determination on the face of the documents it doesn't meet the requirement and refuse to certify that person. That's already written in statute. Okay. And I agree with that. But what happened here is the clerk accepted all of them, certified all of them to the county clerk. The township clerk certified all the candidates. Then somebody objected. Then nobody
did they object within the objection time frame?
Yes.
Yeah, so she found she found all petition packets sufficient. She certified them as being eligible to be on the ballot, and then the objection period starts. You got 7 days to object, and people objected to some of those petition packets as being insufficient for the ballot, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And one of them was the opponent to her father, who's running as supervisor, and other friends of hers.
You cannot make it up.
So
her father's running for supervisor. She's the township clerk.
Yeah. People had to go to court for a judge to force the township electoral board to actually meet, okay? Mm-hmm. So on January 29th, the electoral board met. On the 30th, the very next day, she amended the certification to the county clerk, removing her father's opponent and the incumbent highway commissioner, just because she felt like it. She sits on the electoral board. At the point on January 30th, she decertifies. On February the 3rd, the objector withdraws the objection. February 6th, the electoral board meets, accepts the motion to withdraw the objection, and issues an order that the names of all the candidates be placed on the ballot, but she just refuses to do it.
Were all the candidates objected to? Did all the candidates have an objection?
No, but all of them had the same fault.
All of them had the same fault. Okay, so she was decertifying them discriminately. She was deciding, well, they didn't file this one receipt, and none of them filed that one receipt. And so she only removed her father's opponent and the highway commissioner, who she probably doesn't like.
Right. Yeah. And realistically, at the point that she's a member of the 3-person electoral board,
which she should not have been.
She should no longer have the discretionary authority to decertify somebody. That's what the electoral board's job is.
Well, she shouldn't be sitting on that board anyway when her father's running for election and his petitions are challenged. Like, what the hell? You can find a replacement. She can recuse herself.
That was a motion in front of the electoral board, by the way, too. But she even signed the electoral board's order to I
just almost can't take it. This is so ridiculous.
So it's
welcome to our world.
It's similar like if an appellate court with 3 judges were hearing a court case, an appeal, and one of them just says, "Well, screw it, I'm just going to grant the appeal. I don't care what you guys think." That's essentially what happened here.
So how does this get settled out then?
This issue about recertifying all the candidates will be the judge in Winnebago County will issue a determination or an order on Monday, which is tomorrow. I believe she's going to say you have to abide by the order of the electoral board, and the only way not to do that is to appeal that order, and now it's too late to do that.
I believe she should be civilly sued for what she's doing.
Well, that takes money.
This is just so beyond the pale. Okay, John, before we go to break, I want to get your other story in because this isn't as complicated. It's pretty easy for people to understand that, guess what, if you get caught stealing from the government, maybe you should be prosecuted. But apparently in the state of Illinois, that's not the case. That's not what happens.
Yeah. Last year, 305 state employees were found into having violated, the Paycheck Protection Program loans, fraudulent paperwork, and improperly obtaining forgivable loans, and 40 more cases were being investigated this year.
But these loans, weren't they designed to help businesses keep the lights on?
Yeah.
But these people don't. Do they make up a business? They did whatever they did. But basically, their real job is working for the state.
Yeah, they made up a business,
Yeah.
or they lied about what their business did, how much income they had. And here's one of the footnotes in each one of these case findings: is it talks about when the OIG's review in order to be eligible for at least $20,000 in loan proceeds. Now, the OEIG will refer to the ultimate jurisdictional authority, whoever that is, those state employees who obtained the loans for smaller amounts. So they didn't even look at anybody that obtained loans less than $20,000.
So this is 384 cases of $20,000 or more stealing.
Correct.
Do they still have their jobs?
No, they were fired. They resigned. They resigned or retired, or they maybe one or two of them got fired. But I talked to the reporter at WA&D, Doug Wolf, who broke the story last week. He told me that the state is going after the business that was in the business of filling out and sending all this paperwork in and taking a percentage for all these individuals to obtain their loans. And the vast majority of these people say, well, I just paid some company to get the loan for me. I didn't review the paperwork before I signed it. I just provided them my name, bank account number and other stuff. And they just did it for me, and I just signed it.
So this is why it's important for people to actually support the Illinois Doge effort and a Doge effort anywhere. These guys are scammers. I'm just going to read one thing from Doug Wolf's article that he wrote. The DHS mental health technician obtained a $20,832 loan for a beauty salon that had supposedly earned $104,807 in income in 2019. In reality, the business did not exist and was only a business on paper. And these scam artists, and these Democrats are out there parading around oh, we're so upset. They're cutting this and they're cutting that. No, freeze everything. Investigate every frickin' expenditure now. Yeah. That's where I am. Okay. Hey, I know, I'm sorry. I took off there a little bit. All right. We got to take a short break. We'll be right back because Kirk Allen and I want to talk about what's happening at Stateville. This is the real story.
We always use M13. They can print anything.
They design and price match. M13 does amazing work.
M13 Graphics has helped make our brand stand out. They're definitely the best for less.
Before M13, amateur. With M13, we look awesome.
M13 Graphics, Chicago's leader in full-color design and printing. Set your business up for success with exceptional print products. Turned around in just 24 to 48 hours. Business cards, postcards, posters, banners, brochures, apparel, you name it. M13 will design and print nearly anything for your business. They have the right people in place and a reputation that keeps customers happy and coming back for more. They're a Chicago company that embodies the idea of business integrity. They live it every day. After all, in this country, you're free to do business with who you choose. Respect that freedom. Choose the best. For speedy turnaround, excellent service, and the best pricing in Chicagoland, choose M13 Graphics for all your design and printing. Online at M13.com. Visit M13.com or call now, toll free, 877-M13-1913. That's 877-M13-1913. 1913. The following advertisement includes a celebrity impersonation.
You know, nothing beats the comfort of a perfectly heated home.
And when it comes to heating your home, Air Right Heating and Cooling does it the best.
And they love our country. Beautiful people.
Air Right Heating and Cooling is fast. When your furnace breaks down, they'll fix it right away.
Just like that. Big time results. No waiting around. You get the job done right. And let's face it, who doesn't love being warm, right? It's beautiful. When it's freezing, I crank up that amazing furnace. Burn, baby, burn. Trust me, you'll say, wow, I've never felt this warm in my life.
If you like keeping your hard-earned money, then contact Air Right Heating and Cooling and tell them AM 560 sent you to receive $56 off any service.
Unbelievable.
Visit Air Right Heating and Cooling today at AIR-RITE.com. Again, that's AIR-RITE.com. Air Right Heating and Cooling. Doing it right since 1959.
A great smile can make you feel happy and confident. So when you consciously conserve your teeth, that glowing smile will show through. At Best Dental Group, doctors Economos, Gave Alice, and their staff are ready to help you create that perfect look or maintain the one you have now. Along with general dentistry, Best Dental Group is a multidiscipline practice with an orthodontist, periodontist, and prosthetic specialists on site. They use the newest breakthroughs in dental technology such as titanium implants, Invisalign clear braces, and laser treatments. Don't let fear get in the way. They can recommend sedation to make your experience as comfortable as possible. Best Dental Group is located in historic downtown Bartlett and is a multilingual office. Call 630-830-4930, 630-830-4930, or visit bestdental.org. Best Dental Group, sharing your conservative values and helping you to conserve your teeth.
This is Seth Leibson for townhall.com. The House Judiciary Committee just held hearings on so-called sanctuary city, bringing in various mayors trying to justify their policies. I say so-called sanctuary cities because that is the Orwellian term for what should be called nullification cities. These mayors are nullifying federal law. Liberals used to oppose such doctrines in the name of protecting all of our civil rights. Recall Martin Luther King Jr. specifically denouncing Alabama Governor George Wallace in his I Have a Dream speech for exactly this. In our Republican form of government, localities don't get to veto federal law, not on behalf of racial segregation and not on behalf of illegal immigrants thwarting the law. James Madison called this effort a fatal inlet of anarchy. Mayors deciding which federal laws to enforce and which to stymie is just that, anarchy. If they don't like the federal law, their duty is to try and change it, not stand in the way of enforcing it. These mayors are not heroes, they are anarchists, proving to be little more than a law unto themselves.
You're listening to The Real Story with your host, Jeannie Ives.
All right, welcome back. So, Kirk Allen's been working on this story about Stateville Correctional Center. It's undergoing a major renovation. In fact, it's being completely demolished, and a new one is being built on site. And we got wind, both he and I, we got wind of what looks to be just really sloppy contracting. In fact, illegal contracting, in my opinion, and an extremely expensive deal. So essentially, though, it was back in March of last year, so not even just a year ago, that they decided they were going to close this. And they were going to close sometime in September. And now we find out that they've been doing emergency order bids for, food service facilities. And the cost is ginormous. And the bids aren't completed. None of the contract provisions are completed. And this whole thing is a huge boondoggle. So, Kirk, why don't you pick it up from there, kind of tell people what you found out after you FOIA'd some information.
Well, I appreciate it, Jeannie. Thanks for having us. Yeah, the contract we got on this, it states that it's a Stateville Correctional Center - emergency. I may be mistaken, but the demolition and reconstruction of that has been, I mean, to say it's an emergency, that's been in the works for quite a while. Mm-hmm. At the bottom of, or the very first paragraph, it outlines, that the agency, being the state, has to fill out certain parts of the contract. And one of the first questions is, contract includes bid by purchase order. Well, bid by is part of the state bidding process. And it's got two boxes, yes or no. Well, neither one are marked. So did it I mean, what's the purpose of having the questionnaire for the contract if you're not going to market? Contract uses Illinois Procurement Gateway certifications and disclosures. Yes or no? They don't market. So right off the bat, they're not even following their own procedures within their own document. The most ironic part for us, one of the first things we always check when we see these, especially out-of-state contracts, this entity is a corporation out of Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in order to do business in the state, the contract does say that they will comply with all state laws. Well, Illinois state law requires us foreign corporations or corporations from other states, they call them foreign corporations because they're not registered here, they have to register as a foreign corporation. Well, this one didn't register as a foreign corporation in Illinois. Secretary of State shows nothing for them. So it's another, failure of compliance, even though the contract says they comply. And when you get to page 4 of this contract, there's multiple yes or no questions. Is it a subcontractors utilized? Yes or no? A small business set aside? Yes or no? Minority owned, women owned, persons with disability, veteran owned. Nothing is marked on it.
Right.
Now, we've seen enough contracts in our days. This one, it's got Doge written all over it.
Well, this is a huge project. They're redoing Stateville and Logan. And the amount appropriated is going to be like $900 million. And the project's going to take, I think, 4 or 5 years to complete. And what I have found out from somebody who knows something about what's going on there, this contract that we're talking about specifically is for mobile kitchens because the site is still being used. There are certain prisoners in another part of the grounds where they are being housed. And in the old part where the old kitchen was, apparently that's completely functional, still useful. But you'd probably have to make the food there, truck it over. So part of the way that they did this, as was explained to me by somebody who is privy to it, they decided to put down a concrete pad, $1.5 million worth of concrete, to put 10 mobile kitchens on, 10 mobile kitchens at a cost of about $25,000 per mobile kitchen per month. It's a massive amount of money. And these things have been a complete mess, according to my source. The heat blows in at the top, and everybody's legs are freezing off at the bottom. Can't even function, really. They had to basically build some sort of structure around the kitchen so that they could keep the heat in. They had to put in utilities for these mobile kitchens as well. The truth is, for a lot less money, they could have either just used the existing kitchen that I was told is completely functional and shipped the food over, or they could have built something more permanent for a lot less money. This contract, as it stands right now, is $5.4 million for these mobile kitchens.
That's really special because when you look at the original contract, it says maximum amount $803,415. And as far as the cost of these, would you say about $25,000 a month?
Yes, per, and there's 10 of them, so you're $250,000.
Oh no, there's 24 of them.
Oh, okay.
24 of them at $129,960 each per month, to the tune of $3.1 million for those 24 units, and then there's another 24 that are $95,450 each month.
Each month?
For $2.2 million each month is what this contract says.
Yeah, that's just absolute insanity. These are the people that are using your tax money. This is ridiculous. You could have put up a pole barn.
Now, we know what we watched happen in North Carolina. We saw the Amish come in there and build mini homes, literally building them in 24 to 48 hours and giving people a place to live. They had kitchens and refrigerators. They even had TVs in them.
Yeah.
I suggest we go down to Arthur, contract with the Amish, take them up to Joliet, and show them what real carpentry is, and let's build them a 5-star kitchen for a tenth of what we're spending on mobile trailers. And at the end of the day, we've got no asset to show for it.
Well, if you want to do that, you have to get a new governor, because this guy doesn't care to look at any of the details. You're going to need a new governor before that happens. Because he runs this. This is on him. This isn't even something to deal so-and-so with like a union contract per se. This is something that his department contracted for. He owns this boondoggle and all the other nonsense spending that we've been talking about. Yeah.
Until someone's held accountable, nothing is going to change unless leadership changes.
Now, you have not written the story on this, right? Because you're still awaiting some additional information.
Correct. It's back to that rabbit hole. When you get the first set of records, you see so many things that point you in other directions. It's like, okay, we've got a whole lot more to get to.
Yeah.
Because this thing just stinks from start. What I have right in front of me stinks to high heaven, and I can't imagine when they comply with the rest of what I asked for. I think we're going to be looking at literally millions more that hasn't been disclosed.
Well, you guys do it best. You are a treasure to the Illinois taxpayer. We appreciate you. I certainly appreciate you. John and Kirk, thanks so much for joining me on The Real Story tonight. Really, thank you. We'll be back next week for more. Yeah, we'll be back next week for more stories, because there's never enough of these, enough time to tell all the stories that John and Kirk on their own could tell. And I'm going to continue to watch legislation. Thanks for listening to me tonight. This is Jeannie Ives signing off for The Real Story.
This is Larry Elder, inviting you to join me on the Alaska cruise this summer, along with Mike Gallagher, Jennifer Horn, and Joe Piscopo. Enjoy Alaska's breathtaking beauty like never before. Text the word TRAVEL to 94878 to reserve your cabin today. This luxury trip is your chance to experience majestic scenery, patriotism, and adventure. We set sail August 16th through the 23rd. Reserve your cabin today. Text TRAVEL to 94878. That's TRAVEL to 94878.
Salem News Channel is America's fastest growing conservative TV network.
It's an absolute crazy day.
Home to the largest lineup of free speech champions anywhere. Delivering in-depth insight and unapologetic opinion on today's biggest news stories.
Americans aren't going to put up with this anymore.
SNC brings you the news that matters, told with integrity and clarity. Watch Salem News Channel free 24/7 on your television. Stream now on Pluto TV.
News, opinion, insight. This is AM 560, The Answer. WIND, Chicago. Streaming at 560theanswer.com on the AM 560 mobile app, or tell your smart speaker to play The Answer Chicago.
Changing of the guard north of the border. I'm Daria Albinger, Fox News. Canada's Trudeau administration is coming to an end. Today, the country's Liberal Party elected Mark Carney as their new leader. The former central bank governor will be Canada's next prime minister. Trudeau gave his party an emotional farewell.
And although you'll always find me alongside you, cheering along, their future and your future is now in your hands. Merci, mes amis. Merci pour tout.
Carney will take office as the country deals with President Trump's tariff threats and his talk of his intention to make Canada the 51st state. Israel has agreed to negotiate an extension of the first phase of the ceasefire in Gaza. But to this point, Hamas is not on board. And Fox's Alex Hogan says the Jewish state's cutting off electricity to Gaza.
Civilians on both sides of this conflict have been concerned that potentially stalled negotiations could prevent this ceasefire from holding. But what we're hearing from Adam Boehler, who is the Trump administration's special envoy for hostages, he said that the U.S.-Hamas negotiations have been helpful and that something could come together within weeks. European leaders are sharing their support for the Arab-backed Gaza reconstruction plan. This would cost $53 billion, and it would avoid displacing Palestinians. Israel and the U.S., however, argue that the Strip is uninhabitable. Israel will send a delegation to Qatar for ceasefire negotiations, and Hamas said that there are positive indicators for a second stage of this plan.
Israel cut off supplies to Gaza last week. Immigrations and Customs Enforcement arrested a Palestinian activist last night, suspected leader in the anti-Israel student takeovers at Columbia